Good day, everyone. Today I want to introduce you to a figure whose work changed the course of medical history, but who, unfortunately, did not receive the recognition he deserved during his lifetime. His name is Dr. Ignaz Semmelweis, a Hungarian physician in the mid-19th century who made a remarkable discovery that saved countless lives: the importance of hand hygiene in medicine. Let's begin by stepping into Semmelweis's world. In 1846, Dr. Semmelweis, a recent graduate, took a position at the Vienna General Hospital's maternity ward. Vienna was at that time a center of medical research and innovation, but it was also plagued by a terrifying issue. In maternity wards across Europe, there was an epidemic of what was then known as childbed fever, a bacterial infection that took the lives of thousands of mothers shortly after giving birth. It was so common that childbed fever was considered an unavoidable risk of childbirth, but Semmelweis refused to accept that. At the Vienna General Hospital, the maternity ward was divided into two clinics, one for doctors and medical students, and one for midwives. The strange thing was that the mortality rate in the doctor's clinic was drastically higher than in the midwives' clinic. Mothers were dying at a rate of nearly 20% under the care of doctors, but far less frequently when under the care of midwives. Semmelweis, ever observant, couldn't ignore this disparity. He began looking for answers. He examined every possible variable. Was it the way women were positioned during delivery, the type of care they received, the tools, the medical procedures? But none of these seemed to account for the difference. And then, in 1847, something happened that changed everything. A colleague of Semmelweis, Dr. Jakub Kolečka, had suffered a tragic accident. He was performing an autopsy when he accidentally pricked his finger with a scalpel that had been inside the cadaver. Soon after, he developed symptoms similar to those seen in the women who died of childbed fever. Kolečka died from his wound, and Semmelweis had a revelation. The disease might be transferred from the corpses to the women during childbirth. At the time, doctors would often move straight from autopsies to the maternity ward without washing their hands. This practice seems shocking to us now, but in the 1840s, the concept of germs was unknown, and hand hygiene was not a standard practice. But Semmelweis began to suspect that something invisible might be carried from the corpses to the mothers. He implemented a simple yet revolutionary change. He ordered doctors to wash their hands with a chlorinated lime solution before attending to the women in the maternity ward. Chlorine was chosen because it was known to eliminate foul odors, and Semmelweis hoped it would remove the particles he believed were causing the fever. The results were astounding. Almost overnight, the mortality rate in the doctor's clinic dropped from nearly 20% to around 2%. Semmelweis had found a way to drastically reduce the occurrence of childbed fever, and his success was undeniable. His discovery should have sparked a revolution in medical practice, but instead, he encountered resistance. Despite his groundbreaking findings, the medical community largely rejected Semmelweis's conclusions. Many doctors felt insulted by the implication that they themselves might be causing their patients' deaths. The concept of invisible particles or germs was foreign, and many believed that diseases like childbed fever had internal causes, not external ones. Semmelweis was frustrated and embittered by the lack of acceptance. He began to publicly criticize doctors who did not adopt his hand-washing protocol, and his relationships with colleagues deteriorated. His temper grew worse, and eventually he lost his position in Vienna. In the last years of his life, he continued to advocate for hand hygiene but became increasingly isolated. Tragically, he was eventually committed to a mental asylum, where he died in 1865 at the age of 47. It wasn't until decades later, after the work of pioneers like Louis Pasteur and Joseph Lister, that germ theory gained acceptance. When people finally understood that microscopic organisms caused infection, the value of Semmelweis's discovery became undeniable. He was posthumously recognized as a pioneer of antiseptic procedures, and his work laid the foundation for modern infection control practices in hospitals. Today, we remember Dr. Semmelweis as the savior of mothers. His discovery, simple hand washing, continues to save lives and is considered one of the most fundamental practices in medicine. His story is a powerful reminder of the importance of challenging established beliefs, of following evidence even when others doubt, and of never giving up on what is right. Thank you for joining me today to remember the legacy of Dr. Ignaz Semmelweis, a man who, against all odds, changed the world.